And for more on this, we have Shubhendu Ghosh joining us. Well, Shubhendu, given the Indian government's assertion that both the EU and the European Union, the US and the European Union continue significant trade with Russia and terms the criticism by them as unjustified and unreasonable, where do you see all this moving into?
Lipakshi, good morning. Well, to begin with, it is a strong response that India has given to the West, particularly to the United States, as far as the tariff threats are concerned. It gives a logical and a rational explanation and argument to its closer engagement as far as its ties with Russia and especially the energy trade with Russia is concerned. Some of the points that you enumerated that the Ministry of External Affairs has also mentioned that at a time when global energy supplies were diverted to Europe to be able to support its side in the Ukraine conflict. That was the time when India also had to ensure energy security for its 1.4 billion population, which is about 17% of the global population. By 2030, Indian economy is projected to be about 10% of the global GDP. So in all those sense, in both in terms of national interest, is at the same time in the interest of global economy, the steps that India took to secure its energy supplies have to be seen in that logical context. And that is the argument that India has clearly made. It is the first very clear response that India has made to the almost punitive tariffs and penalty that America has imposed as far as trade with India is concerned. EU and NATO had earlier, we remember, taken a similar stance. And both these parts are putting the responsibility, as it were, on the India-Russia ties as far as the continuation of the Ukraine war is concerned, which is also hypocritical in many sense. And the arguments are also provided in the External Affairs Ministry statement, which says that the countries that are actually dissuading India from engaging in energy trade, in trade with Russia, are themselves, in fact, importing and trading with Russia in a significant manner. If you look at Europe in particular, Russia has been Europe's key energy supplier till 2021. About 90% of the oil and 40% of the natural gas in Europe would come from Russia. Then the conflict broke out. So it's not as if Europe stopped its energy supplies from Russia completely, although there are different kinds of embargoes and sanctions that have been put on Russia. Some 67.5 billion worth of goods and around similar estimates of services were imported by Europe from Russia, which in total is more than the kind of trade that India has with Russia. So some of the key arguments here where India is at once exposing the hypocrisy of the West, if I were to put it like that, and also defending its own national interest of securing its energy supplies.
Right, Shubhendu, if you talk about how does the Indian government's strong pushback against the US narrative reflect a broader shift in India's policy from, say, strategic balancing to assertive economic sovereignty?
Lipakshi, more than a shift, we have to see the manner in which India is presenting the bigger picture. India continues to be an important trading partner, wants to engage with the world. It is, in fact, in the process of negotiating a trade deal with the European Union. It has already achieved a big milestone as far as agreement with United Kingdom is concerned. With America, it's an important economic and strategic partner. India appreciates and respects those ties. At the same time, in this context, we see it is presenting a bigger picture to argue why it does what it does. The energy security for 1.4 billion people of its people is a significant part of its national interest, and that is where India is not going to compromise. It has also given clear arguments about how the West actually needs to put its own house in order, whether it is deliberating over the ceasefire in the Ukraine conflict is concerned. India, for its own part, as far as this conflict is concerned, has made its point amply clear in a number of times. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in fact, had directly on many occasions spoken to Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying that this is not an era of conflict and India is on the side of peace. It is not on the side of either Russia or Ukraine in that sense in this conflict. So India has made its position amply clear. It is the West which will have to see and diagnose the real problem in this conflict, whether it is about NATO's unilateral unilateral expansion, or it is about NATO's own understanding within itself. We've seen fissures growing within the NATO, within the European Union, as far as its engagement with the US are concerned. So in that sense, India doing two things at once, showing the mirror to the West, and at the same time defending its own national interests.
All right, Shubhendu, thank you so much for all those details.